Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is another engine snack. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we're taking a look at a stunning ending played by Grandpa Fish, Stockfish 11 on 4 CPUs against Div P qualifier SlowChess Blitz. So the opening was quite ropey for black, and SlowChess had suffered all the way but hadn't done too badly really. I mean, black's position is a mess, but it's a fairly solid mess. We've got 5 isolated pawns, so you can't really say that black's done a great job of looking after the pawn structure. But I mean, the pawns on d5, f5, h5, you know, do seem to stop white's 2 pawn breaks. And of course, you know, the fact that you've got some open files around those isolated pawns means that black has got some counterplay, for example, on the E and G files against the white pawn structure. I mean, white's bishop on d2 is enclosed by its own pawn, so nominally black has got a good bishop, although yeah, it is also quite restricted by white's pawns. And there's another little problem that we'll come across as well. I suppose the most interesting part of the position is the position of the black king on b5. I mean, it's doing a great job. I mean, if it wasn't there, the white king would come to a4, we'd play b5 and just get a passed pawn. But that king is kind of stuck just a little bit. It's only got one retreat square to c6. And, well, that little point is spotted by Grandpa Stockfish, and it plays a quite beautiful breakthrough here, and that's the move e4. What is the point of e4? Well, obviously it's very forcing, it has to be taken, and d takes e4 is pretty much, I think, the only move you consider as a human. F takes e4 is met by g4, and yeah, I mean, you know, the kingside pawns are just getting activated. You can't just let these two carry on. So yeah, I mean, in my games between Leela and Stockfish, this line came up a few times. You know, you're just getting a little bit of counterplay there, but h6, h7, and then rook h6. You know, the king comes and picks up this pawn, and then you just gradually get round. I mean, it's just an easy win there. So d takes e4 is much more natural, and to be honest, much less obvious what white should do. But here, black's problems begin with the move rook to c1. And you'll notice now that the king is completely cut off, it can't go back. And actually that is going to become a permanent state of affairs once white plays d4 to d5. Then, you know, it's a well-known pawn structure, this, just completely paralysing the black king. Important though that you go rook c1 first, because the point of it is that if black goes bishop d8, which would be ideal to try and you know, counter the c-file with rook c7, then we just go rook to c8 here. And, well, we're attacking the bishop, and we're also threatening rook to b8 check as well. That's going to be checkmate once I play d5. So, yeah, I mean, this is, you just can't allow the rook in like that. If white had played d5 instead of rook c1, then bishop to d8 would be possible, and then rook c1, rook c7, and black's holding on. So after rook c1, rook g7 was played, just to attack the pawn. Bishop e1, the most accurate way of defending the, oops, I'm terribly sorry, of defending the pawn, just keeping the rook free to come into c8. And here, yeah, I mean, SlowChess decided that it had to take action, which was also what Stockfish was doing in my Leela Stockfish games. If you try and stay passive with something like rook h7, I go d5, just clamp that king in, rook f7, rook c6, rook e7, and actually now Stockfish was just playing bishop c3. I was looking at some, yeah, more subtle ways of playing, but this was very simple. Bishop c3, and now something very typical. I mean, if you just wait a little bit, play a move like rook d7, I've got this lovely idea, bishop d4, rook e7, bishop e5 even. And the nice touch about it is that d takes c5 allows rook c5 checkmate. Yeah, if you go something like rook d7, then yeah, bishop d6 is still strong, because bishop d6 allows rook b6 checkmate. And obviously, again, rook d6, you don't take the bishop, you go rook c5 checkmate. And if you go e3, then this is a very typical way of playing for white. You just let the pawn advance, and then you're just going to pick it up later. And, well, basically black will have delayed the inevitable, but it's still going to be inevitable. So after bishop b8, rook c8, bishop a7, d5, the king was entombed. And, well, actually the fact that the bishop's so passive on a7 means that d6 is hanging as well. And, yeah, I mean, black tried this stuff, you know, moving the e-pawn, trying to get some counterplay, checking the white king back to free the king. But, again, just by itself, you know, the e-pawn isn't anything. The bishop's a great defender. And meanwhile, we're just going to pick up, you know, all the other stuff that black has got here. And yeah, this didn't last long. Basically, gave up the d-pawn, swapped off the bishops, and then picked up all the pawns. And well, white picked up the a6 pawn, and then afterwards the f and h pawn, and that was a win. Really beautiful game by, yeah, an older version of Stockfish running on 4 CPUs. I mean, how strong is this engine? But this e4 was a really beautiful break, you know. And by the way, yeah, I mean, in this position you might think, oh well, black shouldn't have gone bishop c7 here. The problem is, try and find another move, and you probably won't be able to find one. This was more or less the best move that black had, but after e4 it was just game over. Brilliant stuff.